Welcome to Frank and Honest, where we're sometimes frank and always honest. Our goal is to cultivate happiness through curious conversations. This voice you're hearing now is Ali.
This is Tiffany, or Tiff, but we are all about health, happiness, and having a good time.
Welcome to the Frank and Honest podcast.
We have a special day today. Today we have with us Catherine Gagnon. I'm going to jump right in to learn a little bit about her and all the fun things that she does. Shall we just jump on in?
Yeah. And just so we all know who's talking, this voice comes from Ali.
Yes, and this is Tiffany.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Catherine, thank you so much for being on here. This is great. So one of the things is we could go into the bio and read all that stuff, but you know you better than a piece of paper will know you. And one of the things that... And one of the questions that we kind of had for you to get rolling and kind of do a little intro on you and who you are is kind of, well, one of the things that we really enjoy about you is you have an adventurous spirit. That's something that just, it clicks with us, right? We like to have fun. You have fun. You smile quite frequently, so that's enjoyable. And you're always doing cool things. So one of the questions that we had to kind of get to know you better is, when did the adventurous, curious side of you start? Is it something that you have always been, or did it pop into you later in life and you're like, whoa, life could be really fun?
Oh my gosh, I love this. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on this podcast. I just love hanging out with some of my favorite people, and you're some of them. So yes. Really cool. That's a great way to start with the adventure spirit. I have to say that I was always like that. I was probably 3 or 4 years old, and I would just leave on a walkabout and go see the neighbors, get a popsicle at one neighbor's house, go swim in this other neighbor's pool with their supervision. And my mom was constantly running after me. I could hear her, Catherine. And then later on, I would climb in trees and I would hide, and I would hear her call me, and I'd be like, so it was always something that was in me. I call that having a free spirit.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And later on in life, I mean, it translated into traveling the world. I wanted to touch all 5 continents by age 25, and I did that.
Nice.
Mostly traveling by myself, but the cool thing about traveling by ourselves is we're never by ourselves. Mm-hmm. And at some point, I wanted to hide in a cave just to journal, because people were always coming to talk to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, I love people, don't get me wrong, but need to reach times.
Yep.
And then I think I was probably 8 years old when I went to my dad and I said, Dad, can you buy me a hang glider?
Really? 8 years old.
And I remember the moment. Sorry, Dad, but he was at the bathroom, and I used to just go into there, and when you're a child, you don't care, your parents, you see them.
Yeah.
And I remember that moment very vividly. He was on the toilet, and then I'm like, Dad, can you buy me a hang glider?
Wow.
What? So, this sort of never really left my psyche, I guess. And I started to be a hang glider pilot at age 26. After a real hard breakup, mm-hmm. and where I felt like this breakup in a way gave me my wings, but it was very, very difficult. So taking on this sport with the determination and the perseverance and the risk management that's associated, I think it helped me heal from that breakup pretty quickly.
I guess.
And so it's been 18 years of hang gliding, and I think my parents always thought it was a fleeting thing, but now, my husband is a hang glider pilot, mm-hmm. and we hang glide in the US and in Canada, and we scuba dive and kayak and ski and bike and do all kinds of things, because for me, doing all of these things really, and I think it's similar for both of you as well. You both train, you go on adventures, mm-hmm. but I love feeling my body and all of its capabilities and mastering it, not pushing beyond the limits, but expanding it and having fun with the elements, whether it's wind or water, air, earth, whatever it is. I think there's something to be said about self-mastery in our completedness. And I take that literally in all aspects of my life, in my health and my relationships and my finances, in my passions, in my spirituality. And I truly believe that life is too short and we gotta make sure we make the most of it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
And
gosh.
that's in a nutshell.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
8
that's
years
so
old.
great. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can't even imagine. We've talked about hang gliding, but it's on the bucket list. Haven't done it. I can't believe 8 years old. That's wild because you scuba as well. And you said something I want to touch on. Catherine, you're really in tune, I'll say, with your health, with your mind, your body, and the whole connection. And that's one thing I really admire about you. And on your adventures, I'm always curious about this because people experience things differently with how adventure feels to them. But because you're so in tune with your body, I'm curious, did you notice, was there like a time that you noticed, man, when I'm doing this wild adventure, it really lights me up here or there? And we can dive into chakras and some of that fun stuff on the energetic level as well. But have you noticed a distinction when you're doing these adventures and where you feel that in your body and what that's like?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I think this is what's best described as flow state.
Yes.
I used to ride horses quite a bit, and it's been a while I haven't ridden, but I remember leaving the stable, and I'm driving my car and feeling so relaxed and creative solutions coming into my mind and losing track of time, and same thing on the kayak or on the skis or definitely on the hang glider. I mean, some conditions for flying are a little bit, I call them, when they're very turbulent, I call them, when my ass got handed to me. Definitely,
Yeah.
I don't flow in those moments, but there's been moments, some flights that are just like, oh my goodness, it's like my whole body is acting in harmony and in synchronistic movement. And I'm talking about hang gliding here, but it just feels like the glider is like the extension of my body. It's so intuitive, just like scuba. It's like at some point you just forget you're underwater and you're just floating there, going like, man, I'm seeing all these fish and I'm moving myself in water. But it's that sort of the flow state. I would say it's that moment when you no longer feel your body as separate from the elements that you're in. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Totally.
100%. I don't know if I totally relate to that. I
Oh,
know we
yeah.
both can relate to that on different adventures, different experiences will lead to different levels of that. I'll say different levels of flow. But when you really get into the flow and you're in it, I think that's probably one of the best feelings ever. Like it's hard to compare to. Some people will reach that with meditation, but when you apply that same thing to adventure and you can cultivate that on purpose, oh man, that's what it's all about right there. And that's something that you do that I really admire because you have mastery in hang gliding now, right? You've been
Seriously.
doing it so long, and there's a difference, right? When you go from be like just trying out this new activity, and my mind was blown the first time I did scuba, and every time I do it is the same exact thing. But when you reach that next level of mastery where you're doing it and you almost immediately get into flow through the activity, it's just something very special. And being able to share that experience that, but also share that with others and help others find a way to experience that same thing. Because I question how many people have actually felt that.
Yeah. Yeah. And what they're doing when they feel it, because everybody feels it at a different time. Flow could be a really good conversation. Flow could be riding a bike. It could be whatever. Flow can be in a lot of different states. Do you think that because you felt flow in you say the hang gliding world, or even when you're kayaking or doing those kind of things, do you think that because you know what that feeling is like, it's easier to find?
Absolutely. And I recently came across a definition of flow, which I think is brilliant. Flow is a point where the intersection of a sort of a proper level of challenge and a high perception of skills, right? And that's where you flow. And there's a chart that exists, because if you have a high level of challenge but low perception of skills, that's when you get overwhelmed and you get anxious. But if you have a low challenge and a high perception of skills, then that's when you get bored and you're not challenged, right? So flow is really the intersection of that. And I thought it's brilliant because it's so true. And that flow point might move as your skills are moving or as the level of challenge is moving. Definitely. Oftentimes when I tell people that I hang glide, they're like, "Are you nuts? Are you crazy? You're looking for adrenaline?" And I'm like, no, hang gliding for me is actually like a big meditation.
Yeah, 100%.
Because it forces me to be in the present moment. And how often do we have opportunities to really be forced to be in the present moment? I think these sports and activities that we do where we master our body and play with the elements is really a great opportunity. Several years ago, I traveled for 3.5 months around Canada and the US with a friend of mine. And we visited about 12 hang gliding sites. And since there's only 3 women hang glider pilot in the whole province of Quebec, well, her and I were like 66% of the people on the road. But we had the intention of filming a documentary about hang gliding that was called The Quest for the Invisible.
Yeah.
And the quest for the invisible is both a metaphor that, in hang gliding, we look for the warm air that goes up so that we can go up, just like birds when they go up without flapping their wings. So the thermal itself is invisible, but we see its effects on the environment. We see leaves going up. We see smoke that gives us the wind direction. We smell it in the air when, we have a lot of pig farms around here. So when it starts to smell like shit, and so it's the quest for something that's invisible, but that we're looking for the effects. And the metaphor is true in our life. And I take this as a personal development metaphor that, when we seek to improve our physical health, our emotional health, our relational health, our social health, our financial health, our spiritual health, it's all things that might be invisible in that quest, but that we see the effects of it. We see, we feel the greater energy of physical health. We feel an easier connection with others as we develop our social health. We definitely see the finances increase when we invest in that. And I would say the most or the least tangible is the spiritual health. It's something that is so invisible, it's so intangible. But when you dabble into this and you start mastering some of the elements and what it means for you, it's almost like a whole other dimension of your life opens up. Things become more simple. Life becomes more gentle. There's less conflict. There's less struggle, and so that's the quest for the invisible. And to me, hang gliding is as much part of personal development than all the personal development it is. And I wouldn't be the person that I am today if it wasn't for 18 years of hang gliding. That's for sure.
Oh my gosh, 1,000,000%. That holds true. It really resonates with a lot of the things that we talk about as well, because I'm not just an adrenaline junkie looking for like the next fix. A lot of times that's what people will think that's what we're doing. But what I'm really doing is I'm getting in tune with my mind, my body, and that energy, where to be in flow and to capture that intentionally. And once you tune in to that spiritual side or that energetic side, it's something special. And I want to dive into that a little bit, because you have a great story relating to going from being a nurse in the traditional medical field to switching gears and going in a completely different direction. And you have some experience of why you did that and what you're doing today. And I would love to dive into that a little bit and hear a little from you of, living at full health potential and making some of those shifts and some of those distinct like points in your life that allowed you to take that turn, and what aha moments, what made you take the turn and go that direction?
Wow. Well, thank you for this opportunity. It's quite a story, and I'm going to try to briefly summarize the key
Yeah.
points.
Good luck.
Right. I was a nurse when I came out of nursing school. I went to ER, and it was blatantly obvious to me that one of the biggest mistakes that medicine had made was to separate the body and the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got countless examples at the emergency room where people's physical body were shifted by just asking a question. And I love to give an example because people need a little bit of tangible. So I had this woman coming in with heart, chest pain, and I was doing the workup and doing the EKG, and we get the heart electric trace and putting in the IV and drawing the blood. And I just happened to ask her a question, and I said, "What is breaking your heart?" And the lady starts crying. She says, "I'm in love with a man who's married, and it's breaking my heart." And I kid you not, within 1 minute of her saying this, so on the EKG, you can see when the heart is in the state of distress. There's, ST segment depression, or elevation. And she had signs of heart distress. And after she cried and released, I kid you not, the EKG stabilized itself under my face.
Really?
Yes.
In real time.
In real time. I mean, she still went to the coronary care unit. But I have like stories like this. And then later on, I became a nurse practitioner because I wanted to prevent things like heart attack and strokes, sort of upwind, to use a hang gliding or aviation. And then I found myself in my office with the sort of similar responsibility to a family doctor and prescribing things for conditions that I knew were preventable, reversible. But most importantly, I felt like the medical structure was not allowing me to bring the whole spectrum of tools that I want. And at the time, I didn't have those tools, but I felt there was something so much bigger that I couldn't bring to my patients to bring them to their full health potential. I mean, I can prescribe blood pressure medication all day, but if we don't go to the root cause, what good does it serve? At least in my mind. I mean, and at some point, I felt very misaligned with the paradigm of the medical field. I felt like, okay, it's great for emergencies or surgeries, things that threaten people's lives, but anything that doesn't threaten your life, but really sort of diminish your quality of life, the chronic stuff, the functional stuff, that I'm always tired, I'm achy, but the person doesn't have a diagnosis, but something is wrong. But in the medical field, we wait until something is really wrong to be able to do something. So I was like, I want to do something before that. And it was really a strong call from soul. I have to say, it's my soul that was telling me, okay, this medical structure is not fulfilling to you. And at the time, I developed a Lyme disease that I didn't know was dormant for 16 years in my body. It sort of just flared up and in a moment of converged stress. And the more I was trying to force myself to stay to work as a nurse practitioner, the sicker I was becoming. And I knew, my parents always wanted me to be a doctor, so I became the closest I could, as a nurse practitioner, prescribing pills and all that. But I really felt that at some level, I was living the life that other people wanted me to live. And my soul was telling me clearly, you got to leave this job. And honestly, it was 4 months of arguing with my soul of like, what? What do you mean I need to leave my job? I have this, job stability, my patients, I love them, I love my colleagues. And my soul was like, as if, tapping its feet and crossing their arm going, no, I'm telling you, you got to do this.
You're not listening.
And I had started my health coaching business at that time. And it soon became evident that I could make a living doing that. But it was the biggest decision of my life, to leave my nurse practitioner job for all the job security, the safety, the this, the that, the status, whatever. And I kid you not, within 2 weeks of giving my resignation letter, my healing in Lyme just took a quantum leap.
Hmm.
It was so obvious. I mean, there was nothing different that I was doing. And all of a sudden, it's like I had this sort of burst of energy, of mental clarity, of things that I hadn't felt in many, many months, because I was very, very sick. And this got me thinking even more about this connection between the mind and the body, because I experienced it myself. The more obstacles I removed from being my true self, the quicker I was healing. And then I started to help people with Lyme disease, recover their health and their life without losing their money or their time, because I had made all the sort of trials and errors and I knew the shortcuts. But then I was coaching, I was using NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, having amazing results, but something still felt missing, like it was missing. And so I started 2 programs of study at the same time, one in Ayurvedic medicine, and that was 2 years ago, and another one at Quantum University. It's a doctorate in natural medicine. And this has been mind-blowing, the frontiers of what we know is possible in medicine by bringing quantum physics and consciousness back into health. And I'm telling you, the more I'm studying this stuff, the more, I mean, it's so aligned with who I am. I teach it, I sweat it, I smell it, I talk it, but it is exactly what I had felt, 7 years ago when I quit my nurse practitioner job, but I didn't know yet what tools I was going to develop. I'm so glad I followed my soul or intuition, but at the time it made no sense. And so it's been amazing to witness my own health potential continue to grow and expand and fine tune itself, and to help people with even more modalities. Sometimes we'll go to Taoist medicine, we'll go to chakra medicine, we'll go to Ayurvedic medicine, we'll go to, of course, I still have my conventional medicine knowledge, and things, but it gave a whole new perspective also to the coaching that I'm doing with people. Because did you know that when you have an aha moment, that moment when you're sort of seeing something different in an event, you give a new meaning to it, that is the moment when you create new neural connections in the brain that weren't there before. And that's a moment that unlocks so much healing for people. And that's called jumping into the supramental. So that's in quantum medicine. We have the 5 bodies: the physical, the vital, the mental, supramental, and the bliss body. And so experiencing healing in all of these bodies is what living at full health potential is, not just for the individual, but in all aspects of their life. And so to me, that's the big picture I always had in mind, even though it wasn't always that clear. I hope it answers the question, but
it totally does. Well, I know it's a lot. It's kind of a loaded question.
Trying to summarize something that you're doing now, and you've been doing, consistently 7 years, but really you've embodied it for your whole life, and trying to break it down into a conversation of 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. It's kind of like an impossible task.
It's
right?
the Cliff's Notes version. Yeah. No, it really does sum it up.
Yeah. When you say, so, and you kind of said it, but just one more time, if you could just nutshell, what do you mean by whole health potential?
Or full health potential.
Yeah, full health potential.
Yeah. So health is much more than the absence of illness. Some people think that, I'm going to take medication and I'll be healthy. Well, health in its full potential is a sense of well-being, a sense of energy in the physical body. To me, the energy is really sort of the telltale that you have a sense of vitality. It really what it is. It's vitality. And there's so many components to vitality. I mean, vitality, yes, it's the physical body, but it's also your emotions and your thoughts. Because you could eat the most organic food in the world. If your thoughts are really self-criticizing and self-judging, or even judging of others, you're intoxic you're having toxic thoughts that are having an impact on the physical body. So this vitality is really an alignment in physical, emotional, mental body.
Mm-hmm.
And then the effects of that alignment is being seen in your relationships that are harmonious, in your finances that are where you want them to be, in your um, intimate partnership, that this sense of connection, in your spirituality, that you feel connected to something greater, whether you call it God or the universe. Um, in your career, that you feel fulfilled by a sense of purpose, that is driving you and not exhausting you.
Mm-hmm.
And that you are at peace in your mind, this mental clarity and this sense of peace, and being able to recoil or to recover after an emotional upset, um, that to me is full health potential. And it's like a spider web, because when you improve one thing, it's like as if you're pulling on one side or the other. It doesn't matter which side you're going to pull, it's going to expand the other aspects.
Mm-hmm.
So in a nutshell.
That's awesome. That's awesome. See, I love to ask the loaded questions, the ones that are seemingly impossible to summarize. But that was a good summary. I like it. I like
Nice.
it.
Yeah, for real. Living at full health potential. Well, you mentioned a few things to embody. Well, what did you say the 5 areas of was it mind, body, health, super mind, and super
Bliss.
mental, and then bliss? Is that right?
Yeah, the 5 bodies. That's what we learn sort of first thing at Quantum University, and it makes so much sense because the physical body is the local matter that we see. But according to quantum physics, what we see in the matter is only 0.0001% of reality. 99.9999999% is energy, is vibration. So the physical body is sort of at the bottom of the curve. And I have a diagram that I could show, but and then wrap that with the vital body,
Mm-hmm.
and then wrap the mental body around it, and then the supramental,
Mm-hmm.
and then the bliss body. And the idea is that consciousness, when you invite consciousness to heal you, and consciousness can be God, can be the universe, source, doesn't matter how you call it. It's a top-down healing, meaning if you work just on the physical body, but you don't address the mental, it's going to impact your vitality. It's not going to work. But if you do work on the physical body and you address the mental, which is higher sort of in the hierarchy, the mental has a big impact on the vital body. And different modalities act at different places. For example, acupuncture, homeopathy, ayurveda, these are vital body medicines. If we think of hypnotherapy, mantra, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, these are mental body therapies that when the person is having an aha moment, they're going to jump into the supramental. The supramental is really it's the seat of archetypes. And it's where the body of laws reside. It's what explains our subconscious beliefs and our behaviors. Meaning, if we believe that life has to be hard in order to deserve our pay, well, we're embodying the archetype of the martyr, right? Mm-hmm. And if at some point the person is having an aha moment of, wow, I deserve to be happy, I deserve to have what I want, they're jumping into the supramental, and it has an effect like top down into the mental, because now they have a new belief, and then into the vital, because now they're opening up possibilities to feel vital again, to feel worthy, to feel good about themselves. And inevitably it has an effect on the physical body. So it's a radical new paradigm that is it's not been emerging it's been emerging for quite some time, actually, and it might take time before conventional medicine agrees to participate, but it's definitely a model that puts people back into the driver's seat of their life, of their health, and it gives them the tools for self-mastery in all aspects of their full potential.
I love that so much because you would think that as humans, we should be able to be in control of our full health potential, right?
Like that it just would be part of the thing coming out of the womb. like it's just an ingrained, like, duh, there we are. We should be all complete in there. But that's just simply not true for any part of being a human. You know, the real thing is we all are here and we show up, but how we express that is uniquely different. And on what levels, I think is uniquely different.
What we tune into with that, because so many people will get in touch with just the physical or just the mental or just one of these areas.
Yeah.
And you feel pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Like when you're feeling good physically, you're like, man, I'm really crushing this. This is great. But then when you add that other layer, and then you add that other layer, and then you have this aha moment, and then you embody that whole experience. That's what I'm talking about. And living at full health potential, not to say that I think it's always an area where like there's always going to be another level or another experience where you can totally embody that. But once you can recognize it and then you can pull it in and you can be conscious of living there all the time. And your thoughts play a huge role into that. That's one of the things I think in terms of aha moments that I had in this journey of life is the day I realized that thoughts are things. And it's good to know that they're there, but man, oh man, I don't have to listen to them. Not all the good ones, there's some you can take and some you just have to let pass through. Yeah. But it was in terms of surrendering and just kind of giving in and learning and being open, keeping my heart open to certain things really was a game changer. But it all starts somewhere, right? Everybody has different experiences, whether that is, and that's what we touched on early on, is even with adventure. So once the first time you scuba dive, like you have to be fully present. If you don't, well, there's another option. But preferably, like I choose life, to stay present, like be breathing. And
when a human is underwater and they're relying on this tank to keep them alive and they freak out about the tank keeping them alive, it really is a counterintuitive event. That's why I like scuba so much, is because it just put me into a complete surrender state. Because it's a lot more enjoyable when you just surrender. And I can say that about so many things. And what Tiff was saying about the whole, you can be on one level physically, and that's all well and good. I think I resonate a lot in the physical world. I really enjoy it. I love moving. It's like my favorite thing to do. I have this little rock to try to keep me still. Because if I just twist it in circles, maybe I won't fidget, the whole time. That's the goal. But one of the things that I really appreciate about the conversations that I can have with you and the questions I can ask you is because they do go to that next level. And I will say completely that you totally, because we just did a little course with you, and that was
awesome.
It was awesome. And it was something that is completely out of my normal wheelhouse, right? Like when you're talking about, does Ali know everything that's happening and what's going on? The answer was no. Right? But I am a curious soul. So, and if somebody is deeply passionate and really positively influenced by something they enjoy doing, I just want to explore that. Because what if I can find a little taste of that? That'd be sweet, and then life just gets a little better and life gets a little better. And I think, oh, geez, here's the thing. I could talk to you forever. And I knew this is gonna be one of the things, come be on the podcast, but podcasts have an ending, and that's too bad. But as this course, and I kind of want to lead into this because I want to give other people the opportunity that we had with you. But it was a really interesting experience for me on a very energetic level, on a level that I don't necessarily have the right words to explain, just because it's not something that you learn about traditionally in the Western world at all. So the language behind it, I think that's why a lot of people get tripped up by it, is because they don't know the words to explain it. So if somebody was to ask them about it, they couldn't explain it. So then they just get held up, right? But from a curious approach and how much it has, I mean, just in the last, what has it been, 2 weeks since we saw each other last, really, virtually. You know, just the energetic shifts in my life and with our life has been just kind of fun to experience and to be aware of. And so I kind of, if you want to talk about kind of that whole opportunity for people and kind of explain it better than me, clearly, that would be awesome. But I am just here to say that it was freaking cool and it opened my mind in a way that I didn't know it could be opened. That's the fun thing about doing new things. You don't know what to expect. And I think it leaves you in a vulnerable state where you can really you can learn something new, and it's fun to me. So.
Totally. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I mean, welcome to my challenge when people ask what I do. But it was so much fun. And one of the things that you mentioned, Ali, when you sent me an email to sort of sum up a little bit of the changes, was that heightened level of awareness that you had of your own body, your own skin, you know, and to sort of keep exploring into that. And you're so right, you know, awareness, whether we are more in the physical form or we're more tempted by the spiritual or a little bit of both, awareness is always the first step of transformation. And it doesn't matter really the portal that we use to bring this awareness and this, you know, aha moment. So I'm so glad to hear that you've enjoyed these energetic shifts, and they're going to continue. You know, the momentum is going to continue in your life. So the program that you're talking about is Collective Inspirations, and it's really just it's a 4 weeks journey. We just meet 1 hour per week. You know, I think everybody can spare 1 hour per week, and we use research-based interventions based on the work of Lynn McTaggart about the intention experiment. So her and a lot of researchers, but she's the one who really brought this woo-woo thing of sending an intention to someone and then having a result to a very scientific level, you know, where the variables were controlled and there was a true valid scientific studies done on thousands of groups. So I knew that intention works with people. So it's based on that. We basically meet together and we create a clear intention, and I guide people to choose and select their words carefully, because most of us are so used to talking about the things we don't like and the things we no longer want. And guess what? The more we talk about them, you know, thoughts and words create things. The more we talk about what we don't want, the more we get that in our life. It's just principle of law of attraction and quantum physics. They're saying the same thing, you know? So we formulate a clear intention using words that are really aligning you in the direction where you want to go. And then we use the power of the group, and there's sort of a sweet spot of 8 people. I mean, they're between 6 and 12 was what the research showed, but 8 is the sweet spot. And there's a strategy to power up and bring ourselves into our body. It's like a guided meditation. And then we send an intention to the person, and most people feel it. They feel when they receive. I mean, you both received it. They feel it, and then they sort of see the shifts. It's subtle, but the shifts in their life. But the most astounding thing with this research and this group is that I think the biggest result is for the people sending the intention more than the receiver, because there's a mirror effect that if you intend for somebody's physical health, your own physical health improves. If you intend for someone's relationships to get more harmonious, your own relationships get more harmonious. If you intend for somebody's financial rewards to increase, your own financial life increases. So this was the beauty of creating this as a as a heightened potential in the group of receiving the intention directly, but also giving and receiving the benefit through the mirror effect. And we use also chakra medicine by associating. So if somebody is, I don't know, if somebody is constantly suffering from, I don't know, infections, cold, well, that's the heart chakra because it's linked with the thymus. And so I gave a masterclass to link each chakra with each organ. And so we work specifically on that person's heart chakra. If somebody has Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis, or they're stuck in the past, that's root chakra, right? They're not able to let go. So we work specifically on the root chakra on top of lighting up all the rest. But I know this can take some people a little bit out of their comfort zone. But there's so much research behind this. I knew that the research was there. I just didn't know how much impact. And I'm pleased to hear that. So there will be another cohort starting March 14, and it's only 4 meetings. It's going to be at 11 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, so 8 o'clock Pacific time. And so it's going to be March 14, 21st, 28, and I believe April 4th.
Okay.
And I'm happy to give your listeners a discount.
Awesome.
Oh, nice.
$111 discount from the regular price, and see what we can create together. But it's very powerful.
Yeah.
And mind, body medicine, chakra medicine, intention, quantum physics, law of attraction. We just throw it in the blender and make miracles.
That's
awesome.
I love it. Definitely. We'll have to throw.
If for some reason this doesn't come out before then, I anticipate that you'll be doing more of these. So we can.
Yes.
Is there, and we can probably put a link to get a hold of you in our show notes. I'm getting a nod from
John. The people that make
that
know things.
I like nods. I like yeses. So we can put a link so people can get a hold of you and really. I mean, if somebody resonates with you, I think getting in touch with you is a great thing. I'm not going to stop bugging you. So
please don't.
Yeah, totally.
I love when you ask me questions.
Yeah. You know, and one of the things I just want to say really quick is you said that because I fall into this category, and so it's one of those things I want to encourage people to go beyond. You said that for some people it can be uncomfortable, right? And I fall into that category, and it's uncomfortable because, well, for me, it was unknown, but I know for a fact that great growth comes from going just beyond uncomfortable. So I really encourage people to, if they've at all ever been interested in this sort of, you can call it woo-woo-y, joo-joo-y, whatever it is, but has science behind it. If you're a science-minded person, there's all that stuff behind it too, is to really dive into it. It's a good time. I've had a really good time diving into this whole energetic stuff. It's kind of life. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Once we tune in and embrace it, it's already there, right? It's just a matter of kind of bringing it forward and tuning in, recognizing where you feel those things. And when you have a guide or someone like Catherine to help you, I think that really gets some next level stuff. And that's what I really appreciate about our connections and knowing you thus far. And with the intention to also, I'd love to go on an adventure together. So that would be so wonderful. I know talking about this is one thing, but experiencing it together is a whole nother. So I'm putting that out into the world. You're in Canada. We're in Idaho.
I've never been to Canada.
Ali's never been to Canada. So I'm putting it out there. I think we got to make it happen. It sounds great. And we can pick up where we left off here and just continue this journey of awesomeness and see where we go.
Yeah.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Seeds are in the universe.
Yep.
And I would love that. I would love that.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And of course, you're always welcome to come adventure with us because we just love playing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for Catherine for sharing your knowledge and taking the time to talk with us today. I really feel like people that resonate with this will really tune in, and with the whole intention to cultivate happiness with curious conversations, I think we really nailed it today. We hit that frankness and that honesty element as well. So thank you guys for tuning in as well to Frank and Honest with Tiffani. TNA.
TNA. Tiffany.
Tiffani. I'm the T in the TNA.
Yeah. And thank you so much, Catherine. This was a great conversation.
Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to connecting again soon.
Yes, indeed. All right.
Perfect. Well, if you like this, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Yep.